G'day guys and gal. Health experts generally don't recommend putting man-children who exhibit various different mental health conditions all together into one group. After all, I can't imagine someone with Asperger's would have a great time dealing with someone with anger management issues. But health experts also say you shouldn't shove pencils down your dick hole, and I'm still doing great. Well, either way, it's a good thing that health experts don't exist in Warhammer 40k, otherwise we wouldn't get the Deathwatch. Squadrons of marines taken from various different loyalist chapters and placed into deadly Xeno situations. Now, on paper, putting alcoholics who would beat their wives if they were able to overcome their psychological castration into a team with egotistical space vampires seems like a pretty bad idea, but in practice it's actually great. The combination of clashing personalities creating enough pressure to forge diamonds, or a mountain of Xeno corpses. Speaking of loyalists shoved into a squadron of misfits and tasked with overly difficult challenges, the next episode of Homebrew Adventures is coming along nicely, with the voice acting being done this week. To get hype for this, we have another displate commissioned, this time of the Reasonable Marine, and I absolutely love this one. This means we now have the Angry Marine, Me Marine, and now the Reasonable Marine. For those of you that don't know, Displate is a company that prints artwork onto metal canvas, and the results are fantastic. I have a number of them hung up around my room and on my streams. Be sure to pick one up, or all of these up, if you want to spruce up your life. And if you want to see these guys in action, then be sure to watch the first episode of Homebrew Adventures on YouTube. Today we'll go over who the Deathwatch are and why they were formed. We'll then go over some of the cooler things the Deathwatch have done, as well as some of their more interesting characters. Let's get into it. The Imperium has been on the brink of collapse for 10,000 years now, and I don't mean that in the way that those dodgy woggy tech stores who have hung up a closing soon sign for 5 years do. No, they are literally so close to getting clapped. In response to this, the Imperium has created numerous protocols and armed forces to try prevent this, forces that the Emperor himself had nothing to do with creating. See, when the Imperium was growing during the Great Crusade, and even their time during the Horus Heresy, Xenos weren't a huge problem. Orcs were slaughtered in the trillions, the Elder were just trying to survive, and the Necrons were sleeping. The Tyranids were also nowhere to be seen, hence there was no need for a specialised anti-Xeno force beyond your average Space Marine and Guardsman. Then, the War of the Beasts happened. Now, the War of the Beasts was a pretty retarded story, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it basically ended with the Imperium about to get beaten by some hectic orcs. Through even more shit that makes even less sense, the Imperium was able to win, but it was a massive wake-up call. Large demon threats had the Grey Knights to handle them, large Xeno threats needed something similar. Hence, a bunch of Inquisitor Lords were like, shit, we need Space Marines! So, they summoned a large conclave of chapter masters and were like, can we please have your best marines so we can kill the Xenos? And the chapters were like, but we need our best marines so we can kill Xenos. So the Inquisitors were like, okay, fair. Give us your marines that are really good, but are massive ego assholes about being good, so you don't actually like them. And the chapter masters agreed. Hence begun the Deathwatch, a collection of kill teams with veteran Astartes drawn from all the loyalist chapters. Their goal was to neutralise significant Xeno threats. I was only half joking about chapters sending in marines they didn't like. Most chapters see the Deathwatch as a great honour, hence genuinely send their best marines to serve in there for some time. Other chapters use it as an excuse to punish marines who step out of line. Then there are some chapters that send marines in just to get them to fuck off. Either way, the marine has to be a veteran, hence the Deathwatch kill teams are actually really good, and pull off crazy victories 9 times out of 10. They can have Dreadnaughts and Librarians as well, it's basically a fully fledged chapter. Officially, they serve under the Inquisition's Ordos Xenos branch, hence they specialise in dealing with Xenos. Obviously, if there's something chaotic in the area, they aren't going to be snobs about it, they will help push back a demonic tide, but this is pretty rare as they spend most of their time balls deep in gene stealers. Name any living Xeno from Warhammer and I guarantee the Deathwatch have fought it, including the Herder, actually pronounced herd, but I think it's funnier to pretend to be a spastic when I say it, where they had to burn through their rat tunnels. They've also fought against Fabius Bar's abominations, which were so mutated that you couldn't even tell what Xeno they originated from. Obviously they've crumped a lot of orcs. One of the funniest crumpings was when an orc warlord was spilling so much blood that it threatened to tear a hole in the warp and allow Khorne's demons to flood through. Hence, to deal with this, the Deathwatch had to go in and kill all the orcs without spilling much blood. Cue a hectic battle full of thunderhammers, power mauls, and power fists. This is something I would like to see animated someday due to how silly and awesome it would be. They've outsmarted the Elder on numerous occasions, baiting them into elaborate traps and crushing them. On top of that, they've also spilt a ton of Tau blood, even blood from the Fireside Enclaves. To deal with the Tyranids, they aided Inquisitor Cryptman in his series of planetary exterminatuses, starving the Tyranids of food. To go even further, they sent some gene stealers to an Orc empire, which baited the Tyranids over there as well. The point I'm actually trying to make here is that not only have the Deathwatch watched them death, but they're actually quite intelligent about it. The jarring mixture of different Marines with different backgrounds allows them to have a wider perspective, and more opinions on how to deal with matters. Sometimes these opinions differ, and the Deathwatch members punch each other in the face, especially if there are Dark Angels and Space Wolves involved, but for the most part it's a massive positive. While the Deathwatch often work with the Inquisition and has their seal on one of their shoulder pads, they aren't their little bitch, which is a nice change from, let's say, the Grey Knights, who seem to kiss any uppity fuckhead Inquisitor's ass that they can get their righteous incorruptible lips on. I prefer the Deathwatch being more independent. Nothing ruins a badass story of different Marines coming together to destroy some hentai looking monsters than politics. Now every good team of heroes out there, that's what the Deathwatch are, has a cool base of operations. For the Deathwatch, they have a metric fuckload of these, and they're called watch fortresses or watch stations depending on the size. They're basically a more gothical looking version of the Justice League's watchtower, and judging by the naming similarity, it's easy to draw parallels. Warhammer 40k has made a habit out of its naming conventions. What it does is that it takes a name, let's say the Space Wolves for example, and it picks one of the two words in its name to really drill down on. For this example, it's the word wolf, which the Space Wolves use so much it's really not hard to see where the furry jokes come from. Same goes for the Blood Angels, who use the word blood for everything, as well as the Ultramarines, who love to ultra wank to the word ultra. For the Deathwatch, surprisingly, they chose the word watch to drill down on, not the significantly cooler word death. Hence the Deathwatch has watch captains, watch fortresses, watch stations, watch companies, watch commanders, and so on and so forth. The organisation is similar to normal Space Marine chapters, other than the fact that the kill teams of the Deathwatch are a lot smaller and generally more skilled and powerful. So what interesting veterans make up these kill teams? Firstly, we have their very first Watch Master, Asger Warfist, a Space Wolf Wolflord who basically took a part in every single battle during the War of the Beast. He punched, slapped, kicked and bit the Greenskins for years until eventually some bullshit fuckery occurred and the problem was solved. From there we have Artemis, who was a watch captain and had a weird supernatural ability to identify Xeno taint or targets of Xeno invasion before the invasion occurred. Obviously this was a super useful power for an organisation that hunted Xenos, so was quickly recruited into their ranks. From there, despite losing an eye and his arm against Xenos, he distinguished himself as a powerful warrior and a great commander. He's famous for his extremely racist yet awesome quote, "Do not ask, why kill the alien? Rather ask, why not?" Arguably the most badass on this list, we now have Bannon, an Imperial Fist watch captain. He served alongside Inquisitor Cryptman in his war against High Fleet Leviathan, pulling off feats that others would deem impossible, including capturing a lictor alive. Eventually in one battle, his team position was being overrun by Tyranids, hence a Thunderhawk came to extract them. Bannon insisted on being the last Marine to board, and when he did so via rappel cable, his leg was grabbed and he could not get up. Instead of panicking and shaking his leg to try get free, without hesitation, he cut the grapple rope and descended into the swarms of Tyranids, his combat knife ready, as he didn't want to put his team's life at risk to save his own. A more well-known name on this list now, we have Uriel Ventress, the famous captain of the Ultramarines 4th Company, and the dude who had to deal with the Demonculaba. He took over from Bannon's squad after Bannon became bug food and led them to a crazy victory over a High Fleet due to them poisoning their Norn Queen. Uri would endure a lot of bad shit before he'd eventually be allowed to return home. Onto a Deathwatch librarian now, we have Ashok from the Angels Sanguine, a Blood Angel successor chapter. During a fight against the Nids, old mate Ashok had a bit of encounter with the Black Rage, a hectic mental disorder that Blood Angels have, which causes some of them to become mindless berserkers so insane that they would make the World Eaters look tame. Most of the time this fall of madness is permanent, however after killing 3 of his battle brothers, Ashok regained control of himself and after going through some more trials, emerged stronger. He would then go on to join the Deathwatch and continue his fight against the Xenos, fighting off 3 Tyranid Xanathropes at one time and surviving, a feat never before achieved by a librarian space marine. And finally, we have a Deathwatch Dreadnaught, Chiron of the Lamenters chapter. Now, if you know of the Lamenters or have seen my video on them, then you would know that they're incredibly unlucky despite trying their very best. they have nearly been wiped out on multiple occasions, leading to Chiron believing that they are indeed gone. So he's all mopey and depressed about it, and his team are like, "Chiron, I think they're still alive." And he's like, "Those fucking Tyranids killed all my brothers. I will have my vengeance." But Chiron, listen, vengeance! Or at least I think that's how the conversation went. I don't really know, I wasn't there. The Deathwatch are a fantastic way to buddy up chapters that otherwise would never interact with each other. It allows for these unique stories to be created without writers having to force events to bring them together. Whoever came up with the concept for them should be applauded, and the excerpts of the Deathwatch I see and read are always a pleasure. They are a huge inspiration for my Homebrew Adventures animated series, and I'm glad to share more about them today. And that does us for today guys, the lore of the Deathwatch. If you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be, where only $1 per month gives you access to a boatload of Warhammer hentai. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more watchful content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.